eventually, these people spread out, and they began to conquer more and more of these tribes and subjugate them into Islam. And Muhammad was able to conquer all of Arabia and unite all the Arabian tribes under one government, one religion. And shortly after that, Muhammad himself died. Now, Islam went on to do something that hadn't been done in centuries. They were able to unite all this Middle Eastern world, which had not been done since the days of Alexander the Great. I mean, Babylon had united them, Assyria had united part of them, Persia had united them, Alexander had, but from the time of Alexander the Great, from 300 CE to 600, 700, from 300 BCE to 700 CE, for 1,000 years this area had not been united. Then Islam was able to unite it again. But it eventually fragmented. Now, Islam has always had one really, really serious problem. Muhammad did not specify how they were to pick a successor. When the leader died, who's to take his place? Well, since Muhammad never said, a lot of times the decision as to who takes the place of the former leader is made in a whole lot of bloody coups where that everybody is assassinated who tries except for one person who winds up winning, and he becomes the leader. Initially, though, Muhammad's uncle took over. Abu Bakr. Now, again, I'm not sure the pronunciation of that, but I heard it recently. It was something like that. Abu Bakr took over, his uncle, and he encouraged them to conquer outside of Arabia and begin to conquer this territory here. And they began to take territory from both the Persian and the Byzantine empires. What really helped? Well, a couple things worked in their favor. These empires had been at war with each other for several hundred years. And finally, the Byzantine Empire got really, really rugged, you might say tough. And in a series of campaigns, crushed the Persian Empire. And all this did was weaken both empires. In addition, to finance these expensive wars, both empires taxed their people heavily. And Islam promised, hey, if you let us conquer you, you will lighten your tax load. Islam seemed to be a way out for a lot of these people who felt oppressed. So they did not realize that once Islam had taken over, the takeover would be permanent and there would really be no way out. But Islam wound up in a series of campaigns conquering Egypt, conquering Palestine, conquering what is today Syria, conquering Iraq, conquering Persia, today it's called Iran, spreading out over to Pakistan and Afghanistan, and eventually, if it took about 700 more years, they conquered the Byzantine Empire. They wound up conquering all of North Africa, and even went into Spain. But in Spain, they were finally stopped. They were stopped by a French king. But they were able to extend their empire to all this part of the world, especially the part of the world where there are few trees. Now, Islam has a lot in its religion to say about trees, but weirdly enough, there are hardly any trees in the part of the world where they inhabit. And trees seem to become a nemesis to them because in a land where there are a lot of trees, they have had difficulty conquering. Their warfare consists of getting on horseback, swooping down with drawn swords, and hacking the enemy to pieces from the back of a horse, from the back of a horse, but put him in fighting where that they can't see where the enemy is, where there are places to hide. And generally, they have not done all that well. All right. going to back up, because your book does, and discuss the teaching of Muhammad. What did Muhammad teach? Now, folk, what your authors say here is pretty much the same thing these same authors said when I started teaching a class in the year 2000. And a lot of it is already very much obsolete. Well, what's obsolete about? Simply, your authors greatly downplayed that Muhammad spread his teachings by fire and sword. You might could do that 14 years ago and get away with it. You might could even have done that 2 or 3 years ago and get away with it. Today, it's more difficult to downplay that Muhammad's followers have spread their teaching by fire and sword. Now, I've had students from various parts of the world. I had one from India at one time who wanted the whole class to know that Muhammad spread his teachings in Pakistan and tried to go even deeper into India by fire and sword. And he said the people of Pakistan were forcibly converted to Islam by fire and sword, and the people of India have resented that from that day till this, and that is why even at this moment India and Pakistan do not get along. All right, Muhammad taught, and folk, this is something I've never said in class before, but he actually taught that his religion should be spread by fire and sword.
Meaning try to force people to join your
Force people to join. That's why we have fire and sword. Basically, if they don't join, kill them. Now, there's two types of teaching. Earlier in his career, the first part of the Quran seems to say teach them by convert them by persuasion. But later in his life, he changed this and definitely taught. And we can actually point it out in the Quran, chapter and verse. I mean, they've divided the Quran into chapters, and it's been divided verses just like the Bible has. We can point out chapter and verse where Muhammad encourages people to kill. Kill your neighbor. Kill anyone who doesn't convert. Do not make friends with the infidel. This I've heard quoted several times. I mean, and the people who quote it give chapter and verse. I'm not prepared to do that. But he did, in fact, teach that. And for many generations, this was kind of put under the rug. In the year 2014, it's difficult to put it under the rug because his followers are right now doing that very thing, or attempting to at this moment, even as I speak. All right. What else did he teach? He taught that his followers should, if at all possible, make at least one trip to Mecca in their lifetime. And most Muslims will try to go to Mecca, and that you should, once in Mecca, pray around the Kaaba. So if you were to visit Mecca on any given day, you would see circle after circle of people encircling the Kaaba. Prayers should be offered 5 times a day, and Muslims will offer prayers generally 5 times a day, but they pray facing Mecca. In other words, look around you, figure out where Mecca is from wherever you're located on the globe, and point yourself, bow down toward Mecca, and pray toward Mecca 5 times a day. In addition, some of the other rules that they have, and almost all religions have rules. They do not eat pork. They do not roll dice, or they do not play, it's called games of chance. They do not like their followers to engage in card games, or roll dice, or anything that could be called games of chance. Now here's one of the clickers, folk. Women. They believe in extreme modesty for women, that women should be completely covered up except for maybe just a little bit of opening in their clothing where they can see out of. But sometimes you can't even see that because they're encouraged even to wear a veil. So basically they believe every part of a woman's body should be covered, hands, feet, and face. They do not any way encourage any kind of contact between the sexes of persons who aren't related. In other words, if you're a young Islamic man, you should never talk to a woman unless it's your mother or your sister. Marriages are arranged. Your parents and will get with a potential wife's parents, and your parents and her parents will work out in marriage. And now, generally has some say-so in whether or not she'll accept the man whose parents are asking her parents if she will marry him. Generally, she can say yes or she can say no. Now, the other thing about women, and this is something that scares modern day Islam to the core. Yes, they are afraid of their women. How's that? They're afraid if they lose their women, they've lost religion. It has been said that all down through time, your women determine whether or not the religion is passed to the next generation. Well, Muslim women today are coming in contact with Western women, and they notice that Western women have jobs, have careers, own their own cars, own their own homes, can inherit property, and can divorce their husbands if they so choose, have voting rights, can hold high office, or even can hold office. These things are not allowed under Islam, and the Islamic men are afraid that if their women adopt the ways of Western women, their religion is ruined. In Muslim society, a woman is considered property. She is completely owned, first by her father, and then by her husband if she marries, or when she marries, if she marries. Now, folk, if I'm wrong, you're welcome to correct me. I mean, how many ever heard this stuff before? Okay, I'm surprised not every hand in the room has gone up, but okay, should have. If you haven't heard it, I'll hear it the first time you need to hear it. Because, again, now, their modesty has gotten them in some conflict with the modern world. For instance, some Muslim women, when they applied for a driver's license, said, I'm not going to uncover my face to have my picture made because this is against my religion. And all of you who have a driver's license, which probably one of you know, that they take your picture when they issue your license, and your picture appears on the license. Well, courts throughout the Western world have ruled, beginning, I believe, in France, that courts have ruled that no, we cannot exempt you. You must uncover your face when you have your picture made. Otherwise, we cannot issue your license. And again, this is hard. Now, by the way, it's not just Islam. All religions, at one point or another, wind up coming into conflict with the rest of the world. I mean, it's Christianity has, Islam has, and Hinduism has, particularly Hinduism's emphasis on caste. All religions eventually come into conflict with the world. So that doesn't set Islam apart in any way, but yes, they come in conflict with the world and their treatment of women. Now, folk, I have heard this only one time, and never heard it again, but I have heard that Muhammad did not believe that women had a soul, therefore women had no hope of an afterlife, that when they died, that was it. I've heard it. That women were just put here to give pleasure to men and to bear children, but did not have any kind of an afterlife. Now, you might have heard, but what about persons who die in a holy war? Are not they promised 72 virgins? Yes, but those virgins were created in the afterlife, and they're not the women who go from this life to the next. Yes, they do believe, and this is just something that you all should have heard by now because it's very prominently displayed, that people who die, men who die in a holy war, are assured of an instant trip into paradise with 72 virgins. Now, at first I heard 70, but later I've heard 72 virgins waiting for them in paradise, as well as a nice, cool place for a Muslim. since so much of their climate is hot all the time and just almost just sticky hot, to have a nice, cool, shaded area where they can live out their eternity is like a real dream come true.